What is going on, guys? Welcome back. So today I want to talk about 5 anxiety symptoms that made me fear sudden death. Now, honestly, this list could be 50 symptoms, but I'm going to narrow it down to the 5 scariest ones that made me feel like I was going to be here one second and then not be here the next second. All right, so know that if you deal with the fear of death, the fear of sudden death, health anxiety, heart anxiety, cardiophobia, you have panic attacks, panic disorder, or any type of anxiety disorder, you are not alone here. So if you are new here, be sure to subscribe, be a part of this family. I give a lot of tip and help videos and storytelling type videos in order to relate with you and to help you towards your goals of either managing your anxiety, getting a lot better, or eventual recovery. But you know what time it is. Smash the like button down below if you're ready to kick anxiety in the butt today. All right, leave me a comment. Let me know if you can relate with any of these symptoms. Let me know your top 5 scary anxiety symptoms. That's how we'll label it. So the first one, guys, chest pain. I know I've covered it a lot on this channel, but I'm going to keep covering it because it was, after all, the scariest anxiety symptom that I had. It was one of the first anxiety symptoms that I noticed when I had my first panic attack. And I made a horrible mistake and I Googled it and it told me that I was having a heart attack. Now, don't get me wrong, some people that randomly get chest pain out of nowhere are having heart attacks, right? But mine was anxiety. And even after getting told by the doctor that my heart was healthy through various tests and multiple visits, I had an issue with acceptance. I Googled that very first night whenever I was in tremendous fear and I saw heart attack at the top, bam, fear of sudden death started that night. So anytime I would get chest pain, I feared that I was about to drop dead from a heart attack. Now, types of chest pain, I had every type, it seemed. I would have it higher up, I would have it lower. I would have it on the left side and in the center, which really scared me because when you look that up, it'll try to tell you like that's where the chest pain will probably be. But I would also get it on the right side. I got it everywhere because it was associated with muscle tension, so it moved around, which actually was a good thing. But at the time, I didn't know that. I wasn't being very rational. I would have this dull ache in between the severe forms of chest pain that was like a reminder like, hey, there may still be something wrong with your heart. And this would last weeks at a time, it seemed. I would get chest pains that would come up out of nowhere, even whenever I wasn't consciously anxious. And that messed with my acceptance and made me feel like I had a heart problem, that I could die at any minute. I felt like the doctors were misdiagnosing me. I'd go to the doctor, they'd tell me that I'm fine, I'll come home and I'm just sitting on the couch watching TV and my chest would start to hurt really bad. So I always thought that I was about to have a heart attack or I was going to have heart failure or just cardiac arrest, that my heart was about to burst in my chest. But I would have the dull ache. There were times where I would have severe crushing, deep pain. The deep pain, like underneath the sternum, it seems, was one of the scariest ones. Felt like I was just getting squeezed to death right there. I would have radiating pain. It would radiate even to my back or up into my neck area, and it would go lower. And the primary reason, if you have anxiety, that you're dealing with this is going to be muscle tension. But I also had Costochondritis, which I believe was stirred up by my anxiety, which was the sternum area. So that's where I was getting a lot of my center chest pain. It's the inner rib cage area. It can get inflamed. There can be a lot of tightness, tension, pain in that area, and that lasted for weeks as well. Heartburn and Gerd, something else that anxiety can aggravate. We produce a lot more acid, and that acid can start creeping up into our lower chest area. So I would get that. I'd feel a lot of, discomfort and pressure and sometimes burning sensations because of that, and that would make me start to think, is this a heart attack? Esophagus spasms, some of you could be dealing with that as well, and anxiety can aggravate that. For most of you though, it's going to be caused by muscle tension. So if you've ever had chest pain, it's scary, you're not alone. You need to go to the doctor, and then you got to start working on acceptance. So if you haven't gotten any testing done, stop watching this video, schedule an appointment, get that done as quickly as possible so you can actually work on acceptance. So I made the horrible mistake of Googling, bam, fear of sudden death, and then I put off getting reassurance for a few weeks. So guess what? I just constantly feared death for a few weeks, and it got anchored in my subconscious mind. Something else that I also did was once I started to fear heart attacks, I started to look up videos of people having heart attacks. Traumatized me even more. I was really afraid of doing exercise because of this. I feared that it would bring on sudden death, and it just wasn't worth it to run or jog or do anything. So I would stop doing exercise. There was a period where I didn't really do any aggressive exercise for like 2 years. And ironically, exercise was the thing that actually made me finally accept that I didn't have a heart problem and that this was anxiety. So it's funny, the things that we are most reluctant to do and the things that we avoid are usually the things that are going to help us recover. So that was something. I was afraid of seeing, like the problem with the exercise thing, I saw videos of athletes just falling out, you know, from a undiagnosed heart issue, right? And, you know, it was just luck to that point that it hadn't happened earlier. So it was never detected by any tests, and they would just kind of fall out, and some of them would die. And I was just like, well, dang, if this is happening to an athlete, then, you know, it could definitely happen to me. So chest pain was by far the biggest one. That's the one I wanted to spend the most time on. The next one was numbness and tingling, and I would feel this numbness and tingling right after my chest would hurt. A lot of these symptoms would happen all at once. But numbness and tingling scared me because, again, it's due to redirected blood flow. You know, if it's because of anxiety, it's because you're going into survival mode or fight or flight, or at least you're pushing the limits of that. You're creeping into it. You don't have to be in full fight or flight, by the way, to experience any of these symptoms. But our blood flow is actually going from our extremities, our face, our fingers, our hands, our arms, our legs, our feet, and it's going to the central areas of our body, like our core, our most vital organs, so we can fight something off or run away from something. So we have that going on, and it scared the crap out of me because it would also happen on the left side of my body, my left arm, my left hand. It would tingle, it would start to go numb, and then I'm thinking I'm having chest pain. And you look up numbness and tingling and chest pain, it's going to confirm that you're having a heart attack. Also, I feared numbness because I was afraid for a good minute of having strokes. So if I would get numbness and tingling in my face, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm about to have a stroke. I would get the tingling and the numbness in my face a lot as well. So know that that's a common symptom of anxiety. But again, if you've never gotten that checked out by a doctor, be sure to do that. The next one, shortness of breath. This is an obvious one for most of you. You've experienced this if you have bad anxiety. A lot of this is we're going into fight or flight. We are breathing more rapid and more shallow, but we are getting the right amount of oxygen. This is a very common symptom. We're trying to pump more blood, more oxygen around our body. So again, we can fight or run away from something. So the shortness of breath is common. Just think about it. If you're in fight or flight, your body's acting like a tiger's chasing you. Would you be able to take just long, deep breaths if a tiger was on your butt trying to eat you? No, you'd be like this. It serves a purpose to get more blood and more oxygen to the rest of your body. So I dealt with that. Another thing could be tension in your diaphragm area, restricting how big of a breath that you get in. But a lot of that is just, it's the stress response. The next one, guys, this is not really an individual symptom because a lot of symptoms are associated with it, but it's just general adrenaline rushes, panic attacks. Okay, I guess we could throw anxiety attack in there, but anxiety attacks usually are more gradual. It's more spread out. It's less intense. I'm talking about just this full-on hit of adrenaline where you can almost feel it come out in your stomach, in your midsection, and then all the symptoms flood. And a symptom that's associated with this is the impending doom. And you just feel like something horrible is about to happen. And for me, that horrible thing I thought was going to happen was death. So when you get these adrenaline rushes, panic, that's whenever I would get all the symptoms: the chest pain, the numbness and tingling, the shortness of breath, the racing, irrational thoughts, you name it. I would get it during these adrenaline rushes and panic attacks. And sometimes it would come out of nowhere. And sometimes they would happen right after I would feel chest pain, then the adrenaline would happen, then the panic would happen, and then I'd get all the other symptoms. And the next one, guys, is dizziness. I went through this period of time where I was dealing with dizziness, and since I feared it a lot, it started to happen more frequently. Luckily, it wasn't like a 24/7 symptom like it is for some of you, but it sucks walking around all day feeling like you could just faint at any moment. So I had this huge issue with dizziness, and sometimes it would be like, it's hard to explain. I guess the best way to explain it, I mean, we all know what dizziness is, right? But it's like you're walking on a boat. It's like you feel a little off balance. Anxiety can really mess with our vestibular system, which is below the inner ear, in the inner ear area. So it can mess with things like coordination, our balance, the feeling of being dizzy. So I dealt with that. It scared me, made me feel like I either was going to have a heart attack or have a stroke or just faint. So I went through that. So if you're dealing with those symptoms, guys, you're not alone. But guys, there's tons of other symptoms that, you know, I could sit here and talk about for hours that I feared were a sign of death. But I dealt with the fear of sudden death for about 3 years. Once I got past my cardiophobia, things started to get better. Like I said, my health anxiety continued, so I still feared things like cancer and stuff, but I felt like I could fight those things if I were to get them, right? I could at least say bye to my friends or my family, you know? I feared sudden death because I wouldn't get a chance to tell anybody bye, or I wouldn't have a chance to fight for my life. I don't know. So it was just something that I really struggled with, amongst many other things. But the best thing that you can do, guys, is to get your initial reassurance from a doctor and start moving forward with acceptance and doing all the other things that I talk about in my videos. There's millions of tips. I cover all those things in my anxiety course, Elite Anxiety Bootcamp. So if you're struggling with anxiety, the fear of death, health anxiety, panic attacks, generalized anxiety disorder, that's my blueprint on how I personally overcame it. I'm going to put the link for that down below in the description and in the first pinned comment. So check that out. There's some other links down there for online therapy, my coaching info, my socials and all that stuff. But I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Know that you're not alone, all right? Hopefully this video made you feel less alone, if nothing else. Those were my 5 anxiety symptoms that scared the crap out of me, amongst many others, but those were the 5 scariest ones for me that made me feel like death was right around the corner. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I love you all. I will talk to you tomorrow.